I myself enjoy reading. I would read for free. I read for free actually. But most people would not read even if they were paid to read. In one organization I was working, the employees were basically paid to read a book per week, but they didn't. At that time, I thought that they were lazy. But 15 years afterwards, I realized that it could be something very different than laziness that made them cheat in the job of reading a book. Even our children are somewhat paid to read. In Nepali, read and study use the same word, whereas in English, to study would mean reading, making calculations, talking to the teachers, and so on. In Nepali, the word podnu means reading. So if you translate that word podnu into English, it would mean read. I'm just deviating a bit to emphasize that in studying, reading holds a lion's share. Despite of that, most students hate the process of reading. That was true even before the advent of the mobile phones and broadband. In those days, they had other distractions like marbles, going out, chatting, or simply sleeping. Again, we tend to think that the students were lazy or demotivated. That could be true, but I realized that it's something else. The main reasons the employees in my organization and the student cheated in their duties to read is because they cannot enjoy the process of reading. Tell me, what would you do for free? Would you cook for free? Would you dance for free? Would you give a speech for free? Would you write a software code for free? Would you do an operation for free? Would you teach a class for free? So, what I'm getting at is if you are willing to do something for free, it means two things. First, you enjoy that activity, and second, you have some basic skills for that activity. However, even if the later was true but the former was false, you still would not do it for free. However, if you enjoyed that activity but you still didn't have the basic skills, you would be willing to give it a shot because it gives you a kick. For example, you might love and enjoy the acting process, but you might be very bad at it. But given a chance, you would go on stage and perform. The same is true for singing, playing sports, and even starting a business. After thinking for many days on what to write about this process of reading, I finally was able to discover the real problem people are facing and the solution. It's very simple actually, but it seems that nobody has put it on black and white in the form of a book or any form of research so far. Why? Well, those who do not enjoy reading can't come up with an explanation of why they don't enjoy reading. Then those who are very good at reading and enjoy reading, like me, you, and my niece that we talked about earlier, are naturally wired for reading, it seems. We just catch the process of reading and we just know how to enjoy it. But this easiness of mastering the art of reading makes us ignorant to the fact that 95% of the population don't enjoy reading because they are not wired for it. So, how to create this wiring in the brain in these people? This is the answer I'm going to give here. Of course, it's not based on empirical science, but like all of my earlier ideas and theories, this one is also a postulate that somebody, maybe you in the future, will prove or disprove doing the necessary scientific investigation on it and maybe getting a PhD for it. So, what I found out is First, you need to know vocabulary, which we talked about earlier. Then, you need to know grammar. You need to know what a word means, and you need to know how to read a sentence. You need to know what's a verb, an adjective, a noun, and so on. Once you are aware of those basic elements, the next step is to read line by line. That's easier said than done for most people. The final truth of mastering the art of reading is what I have talked about earlier in the section of reading in this chapter. I accept my naivety to think that anybody who says that they got an education or who seems to be able to talk reasonably well after watching some YouTube videos can enjoy books and apply their learning spontaneously. I used to give my CEO clients books to read, thinking that since they were earning so much money and I had so much high status and they could talk eloquently, they would be able to understand and enjoy and apply the learnings from the book like I did. But it never happened. Instead, they found excuses for not having the time to read, and I believe them. However, they just did not know how to read like a pro. I can't teach them now, but you and your students, I can help. So once you have mastered some basic vocabulary and grammar, then you are set to read a book. I've already talked to you about the table of contents and how to read paragraphs. The next step is to actually sit down and read the book. First, just read the book line by line, even if you do not understand fully at first. You can read loud, but then later on you can switch to silent reading. Once you read all the lines even though you don't understand and you persevere, your brain will start to adapt to those black shapes on a white paper. You can complete a whole book even without understanding. Just enjoy the words that you read as if they were massaging your brain. In your next reading, try to read a bit slower, and this time, now that you understand the concept of chapter and paragraphs and sentences, try to understand each sentence. Identify the verb, the subject, and the object. Determine the tense. Find out if it's a complex sentence. If so, determine which is the main verb and which is the subsidiary verb. Next, imagine that your brain is like a musical instrument, like, say, a piano. So the words are the musical notes that your instrument is supposed to play. That will produce music. So you are the piano, the guitar, the violin, and the music is played in your brain. So what kind of music is played in your brain? Again, for people like me, this occurs naturally, but you might have to force it. As you read that sentence and you understand it, next thing you need to do is to create an image of what you have just read. I remember when I was in grade 9, and our English teacher was reading some text. As she was reciting, there was a passage where they were talking about the boy falling and breaking his leg. That teacher acted as if she fell and patted on her legs, almost limping. Now we had a visual of what we had just read. Other teachers also taught us with such acting, but this one I remember very well. Then in the earlier years, you will remember that most of our books contained pictures. In this way, we were able to visualize the story of the sleeping princess when we saw the same in a diagram around the page. When I was young, I did not know why the diagrams were there, but just now I'm sure that it was to help us trigger visuals as we read. Unfortunately, many people just took those pictures in the book at face value and the acting of the teacher as an insult to the intelligence. One of my friend in the class actually made a complaint to that teacher that she was teaching us like we were babies, and she didn't have to show her legs when the book was talking about legs. By the way, that friend was a really smart guy. So he would not know that other people needed assistance to learn what he already knew by birth. So, in this way, when you read a text, just try to create an image. Next, just because you are reading silently, or even if you are reading aloud, it doesn't mean that in your brain there should not be sound. It is easiest when there is a dialogue being read. You should just hear the two people talk in your brain as you read. Even if it is a monologue, then just imagine the writer speaking. If the writer is a lady, hear the voice of a lady. If it's a man, hear the voice of a man. You will develop this skill over time, but based on the words chosen by the writer and the syntax and the grammar used, you will be able to hear different kinds of voices in your brain as you are reading. Some voices will be commanding, while others will be inspiring. Some voices will be boring, while others will be exciting. It's such an amazing feeling to hear uh, the voice of the writer in your brain. From my earlier days of reading books, I always heard those voices. It never occurred that other people might not be hearing those voices as they read. So, as I wanted to write this section, it just dawned upon me that they don't hear those voices, and that's why reading is not enjoyable for them. The question is, can such a wiring be created by the student? See, I was born with it. I did not look for it. But your students might not be born with it. But if they look for it, they might be able to create this neural circuitry that enables them to first see the visuals and then to hear the audio as they read. The next important thing when we read is that it should create some kind of emotions and feelings in the reader. It could be boredom, but not limited to that. It should be a curiosity, thrill, sadness, happiness, anger, shock, disbelief, regret, realization, pity. Yes, you can get even those feelings as you read textbooks. The way they are written would make you want to vomit, but that's still falling. It might make you feel instead challenged and irritated that you are not able to understand fully. But the idea is to recognize how you are feeling as you are reading something. The final element of the music that is produced as your brain reads the letters on the paper is thinking. As you read, your mind must be coupled with a new chain of thoughts. So you might be thinking of something before reading the book, but as you read it and you understand what you are reading, you should let your mind get into the subject matter of that book. Ask yourself questions related to what you are reading. Try to find relevant experiences that matches the content. Question yourselves in any way, even though you might not have the questions. Just have an urge to ask the questions. Be fascinated with the possibilities. Be disgusted with the limitations. As you read, let your mind wander along the words that are written on that page. In this way, I have listed four types of music that is produced by the brain. As you, of course, they are related to the four brain quadrants. It seems that I just cannot escape their reality. The further and deeper I go into this book, the more ubiquitous and universal I think this model is when it comes to learning, not only studies but anything. So coming back to the effect of reading in the brain, the visual effect is related to the wisdom brain quadrant. The audio effect is related to the skill brain quadrant. The feelings effect is related to the information brain quadrant. Finally, the thinking effect is related to the knowledge brain quadrant. In this way, if you are able to read in the way I'm prescribing here, your whole brain is engaged as you are reading. You can compare it to a full body massage or a full brain massage. No wonder I read for free. So my suggestion, dear teachers, is that you guide your students, especially the imposter ones, in how to use their brains as an instrument to play the four types of music when they are reading. It is not impossible. I am sure that someday someone will do more research on my hypothesis I expounded here. For now, I'll just leave it at this. I am happy that I'm able to leave a legacy behind for the new generation to be able to enjoy reading, if even if they were not wired for it by birth. Once this skill of reading line by line is attained, then the next reading skill your students must acquire is scanning. Read the titles, the first sentence of a paragraph, the few paragraphs of a chapter. Look for words that would highlight the meaning of the paragraph and of the whole article or a chapter and eventually book. Create an overall summary of what the book is about, or should I say could be about, because you are not reading line by line. Well, this is basically scanning. Then finally, if it's worth reading, then choose to read line by line. The last skill will come after you have read thoroughly and have got a lot of content to compare the current reading with. The idea is to read between the lines, find out what hasn't been said, what has been implied. All these again create inner dialogues in your brain. They create visuals, they create feelings, they create thoughts. Not only what you have read, but what you're expecting to read but you could not read can also create the music that we talked about earlier. So talked about topic that nobody really cares about. As I told you, those who do not enjoy reading stay a mile away from books, and so why would they ever want to learn how to read and enjoy the process? Then those who enjoy reading are totally oblivious to the fact that others are not wired like them. But then why should they care? Even if they cared, how can we teach what I just told you earlier? Still, I put my own innate capacity to read into a model whereby the brain, upon reading, first understands. This is done with the skills of vocabulary and grammar. However, reading is not limited to understanding. In order to take it to the enjoyment level, the brain must trigger the creation of images related to what is being read and understood. This is followed by the sounds of the writer and the characters. All this happening in the brain, of course. Then the same brain must create certain feelings, either positive, neutral, or negative, related to what is being read. Then finally, the brain must trigger the creation of thoughts, questions, arguments related to what is being read.